Charlie D'Amelio is trending again. And once again, she's trending for the wrong reasons. It's like we're in a time loop. So let me start off by saying that probably within the past couple of weeks, I noticed that she was trending a lot on TikTok, Snapchat, all the primary social media apps. And she was getting a lot of hate. Snapchat released something in one of their stories using a poorly taken picture of her, basically slandering her and saying that she was a bad person. I don't know who exactly posted it, but it was in the section with the stories with all the Snap stars. And I remember watching it and trying to figure out exactly why so many people hate this woman. She's not involved in politics. She's not involved in controversy. She literally just posts dancing videos, and sometimes she'll post something that's going on in her life. Like a get ready with me, or she'll make a joke about her nipples. She's not a controversial or a hateful person. So I genuinely don't understand why she's getting hate now, and I never understood why she was getting hate back then. It's like we're in a fucking time loop where once again Charlie is trending, and then right after she's trending comes in a big wave of hate. But there's something different in this timeline than the timeline we had back in 2020. And that is the fact that Charlie now has family drama. It's been speculated for a long time, though not confirmed, that Charlie no longer talks to her family because people noticed that she used to be really close with them, especially her sister Dixie. And now we haven't seen them together in about a year, maybe more, maybe less. It is now being confirmed after her father went on live stream and confirmed that Charlie no longer talks to them. He said that he wants his daughter back. He did a really long live stream. I haven't watched it in its entirety. But here's what we know. Charlie had some family issues, primarily because her parents and her sister used her for fame and as a cash cow. More explicitly, it was allegedly discovered that her parents stole millions of dollars from her, and she is now taking her parents to court. But before all that was discovered, because of her family issues, she blocked them all and moved away to New York to focus on her Broadway show. And she had posted something the other day, new YouTube video out, and in the caption it said, "I'm depressed, leave me alone." And she hadn't posted again until just a few hours ago. There's a lot of different people across the internet commenting on this, coming up with their own analysis and their own opinions. Most people are on Charlie's side. But as I'm someone who actually went through something similar, and I've spoken about this before, I also no longer talk to my parents for actually similar reasons. More than one reason, but similar reasons. And so hearing everything about it, I was low-key getting flashbacks from back when I first cut off my parents. And so I thought I would offer my own perspective as someone who's gone through something similar. So a quick overview. My parents were what some people would refer to as emotionally abusive. However, I'm not really someone who believes in emotional abuse. They definitely did manipulate me on a psychological level and treat me as basically like their pet. They definitely used me as a cash cow as well. Unlike Charlie, I wasn't making millions of dollars off of TikTok dances, but I started earning money at a very young age when I was in my mid-teens. And from my teenage years into early adulthood, my parents took that money from me. They also would take money from me if family or friends would give me money. If I got presents for Christmas or for my birthday, my parents would steal those gifts from me and either sell them or return it to the store. and then keep that money for themselves. And they always use the excuse that I owed them money for everything they had done for me, from providing my housing to providing food to teaching me. And they would explain to me that a lot of money goes into raising a child and that I owe that money back. Let me explain something to you. You owe everything to your kids, and your kids don't owe you shit. You knew what you were doing when you were having sex. You chose to take on the responsibility on having a child. You had 9 months to prepare to take care of this child for life. Your children did not ask to be put on this planet. You brought them into this world against their will. Therefore, I will say it again, your kids don't owe you shit, but you owe them the fucking world. My parents are the most selfish people I know, or knew, because I don't talk to them anymore. I haven't spoken to them in years. They could have moved all the way across the world for all I know. I have no idea where they are, and I intend to keep it that way. But there were some things that Charlie's dad said, which I forget his name, that hit me almost like a replay button. One of the things that he did is he compared himself to Joe Jackson, who is Michael Jackson's father. And he always said that, like, oh, I'm not like Joe Jackson or all these parents who force their kids into fame or force their kids to work hard. This is when I knew that Charlie's family's in the wrong and Charlie's the innocent one. For starters, Charlie's kept quiet about this entire thing, while her family are desperately trying to prove their innocence. Secondly, and this is the part that resonates with me, when someone points out your flaws and then you have to point it out, like, oh, well, at least I'm not as bad as this person, you're already proving that you're a shitty fucking person. This is something that my parents used to do. Whenever I told them that they did something that I didn't like, they would say something to me like, well, other parents beat their kids. You should be grateful we're not that bad. You need to be grateful for what you had. They would literally not acknowledge what they had done was fucked up. And I mean, how shitty of a person do you have to be that your own kids don't even want to talk to you anymore? It shouldn't ever get to that point. But if someone goes to you and is willing to explain to you what you did wrong and how your actions made them feel, and you respond, well, at least I'm not as bad as this other person, so it's not my fault. Mind you, people that you don't even know, most people, I think it's safe to say most people haven't known Joe Jackson. He's been dead for a few years now. Why is Charli D'Amelio's dad comparing himself to another figure that he's never even met before? As if he's trying to downplay what exactly is going on. And, you know, I really don't know the full story because his whole live stream was kind of all over the place. You know, I tried to watch it. I really did. Because there's several replays of it across the internet. And there was a lot of gibberish. And he just would not get to the point. You know, I cannot listen to people who don't get to the point of things. Whether, if you pay attention to the people that I listen to, it's always people like Andrew Tate or Donald Trump or Nick Fuentes. The people that I listen to, they get right to the point. They don't dilly-daddle. They don't compare themselves like, well, this person did this, so I'm not that bad. They get to the point. They speak their mind. They speak their truth. People who dilly-daddle, I don't associate with those kind of people. I can't stand those kind of people. And so me and my friend were talking about like the parallels, and I was like, okay, we're both internet personalities. We both blocked our parents and moved away. We both have issues with our parents, and well, I rarely talk about it. Charlie hasn't spoken about it at all. The only difference I'd say that Charlie and I have is Charlie is also cut ties with her sister and doesn't talk to her. I have a sister, but she's not my biological sister. She came much later in my life. She's actually a pretty evil fucking person. So, this to retell the story of our fallout. My sister, out of nowhere, decided to track down an old friend of mine, and she told my friend that I was stalking her and that she needed to fear for her safety. That obviously wasn't true. When I found out about this, I confronted my sister about it, and when she denied it, I showed her the screenshots and the evidence, and I ended up yelling at her and cursing her out and blocking her. My sister then went to another friend of mine, and because she couldn't reach me personally because I had her blocked, she had my friend send me a video where she was attacking a punching bag and pretending that the punching bag was me. And I ended up cutting off that friend too because he was siding with my sister even though I had done nothing and she was the one coming after me. If that wasn't bad enough, the next day I got woken up by a phone call from my local police department. Carly had put in a report that I had been harassing her and threatening her. So the police had questions. I told them my side of the story and I offered screenshots as well. The police already knew that Carly was lying because in addition to her story not adding up when they asked for proof, she didn't have any, while I did have proof, which I released online, and I was also willing to share that with the police department. After that, I didn't hear from her for a while. And then, months later, she reached out to one of my neighbors and told my neighbor that I had threatened to kill her. And that caused even more drama. So I went online and I exposed everything with screenshots, with proof of everything. She then tried to confront me about the situation and tried denying everything, but her efforts were completely useless because I had proof of absolutely everything. You know, she was once in rehab, which I kind of put that as the same umbrella as like a psychiatric ward or whatever. But the point is she had such serious mental issues that she suffered from psychosis, and she was quite literally, she was legally forced to go seek professional help. And she had to be locked away in a rehab center where she didn't have access to her phone or to the outside world for about 6 months. She needs to go back there because clearly she didn't learn her fucking lesson. But, you know, she's just an evil fucking person. But my whole point to this is basically trying to break down the whole Charlie situation. Now, I don't know what the fuck happens. All I do know is Charlie seems innocent. I mean, this is someone who gets a lot of hate for no reason, and I genuinely don't understand why. Like, all she does is dance, and sometimes she posts like an insider on her insider life. That's it. That's all she does. Her parents, on the other hand, there's definitely been evidence throughout the years that they were definitely using her to boost their own fame and popularity and status and money. And, I mean, the fact that she is supposedly taking her parents to court, I would say is evidence enough that there's definitely some sort of evidence that she has against them. But something that I fucking hate is that people oftentimes say when you tell them that, like, oh, I cut ties with my parents, they often immediately blame you. They often say, well, why'd you cut them off? Don't you think that's a little extreme? Motherfucker, shut the fuck up. There are so many people who have never walked a day in your shoes, and yet they are such asinine, judgmental cunts. I've spoken to many people who have told me that I shouldn't have cut off my parents, that that was the wrong thing to do, but they're your parents though, but they love you. If my parents love me so much, then why did they take my money and leave me on the fucking street? If my parents love me so much, then why did they make me feel in such a bad way that I eventually decided to cut them off entirely and never speak to them again? And these aren't just questions that I'm asking. These are questions that every parent, every child asks when they feel estranged from their parents. And I think the way your children treat you in the future is a direct reflection on you and your parenting skills. And because we live in a society now where I've noticed a lot of kids aren't talking to their parents anymore going into adulthood. And I've been talking about this for a long time. I think we live in a society now where parents genuinely do not care about their fucking kids. I mean, I see, like, from the parents don't pay attention to who their kids hang out with. They don't pay attention to what their kids watch. They don't pay attention to what their kids are doing, what they're being taught. The parents are kind of just there to exist. And they basically allow their children to be raised by the public school system and by their friends. And I mean, there's so many stories of, like, kids getting involved into drugs or getting involved in illegal activities and getting themselves into trouble. And by the time the parents find out, they have no fucking idea. Well, because the parents don't give a shit about their kids. And the kids definitely feel that going into adulthood. They know that they've been neglected. They know that their parents don't care. But then there's also another side of this. There's the other side where parents care about their kids too much to the point where they keep their kids in a bubble and they don't allow them to have a fucking social life. And they try to shelter them from everyone and everything. You can't do that either. You still need to allow your kids to be their own person. It's like it's one extreme or the other. No one seems to be able to master the balance of caring about your kids, but still allowing them to be their own person with their own soul, with the freedom to make their own choices. And I'd also like to say Heidi's Emilio. She's been popping up lately in my feed, and she started popping up so much I had to block her account. This woman is at least 50 or 60 years old, judging on her appearance and also based off the fact that she has 2 adult children. Why is an old woman acting like a fucking teenager on TikTok? Fucking doing TikTok dances and trying to appeal to younger audiences. I'm like looking at this, I'm like, bitch, you are trying so hard to be relevant to us. You're not relevant. You're just being a jester at a circus. You're making a fucking clown of yourself. You're not relevant, bro. Dixie D'Amelio, I don't think she ever was relevant, really. I mean, I remember she was really popular back when Charlie and Addison Rae were also popular. But I genuinely think that Dixie D'Amelio was only ever popular because of Charlie. Because Charlie was the queen of TikTok, the mascot of TikTok. Charlie was the reason why TikTok became so popular and blew up so much. Honestly, if it wasn't for Charlie, TikTok may not be to where it is today. Because she really, like, bro, when people heard about Charlie D'Amelio, she was the reason why people downloaded the fucking app. Her family, no one ever gave a shit about them. The show Keeping Up with the D'Amelios, I haven't watched it. Apparently it's on Hulu from what I've researched. It seems like the show really didn't do well. People really didn't watch it because people didn't care about the D'Amelios as a whole. People only cared about Charlie. It's kind of like Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5. Michael had much more talent than his brothers did. Not that his brothers were talentless or that Michael didn't care about his brothers, but Michael wanted to do his own thing. And Joe Jackson said, no, we're not doing that. We're going to perform as a family, and we're going to do what I say because I'm your father and I'm your boss. When Michael Jackson disbanded the Jackson 5 and went off and did his own thing, people low-key forgot about his brothers. Like, people didn't care anymore. And so it's funny, too, because, listen, the Michael movie just came out, which tells Michael Jackson's backstory, which I already kind of knew because I've also researched Michael Jackson and read up on watched his documentaries as well. But it's so hypocritical how Charlie's dad said that he doesn't want to be like Joe Jackson. And yet, I'm noticing very similar patterns between Joe Jackson and Mr. D'Amelio. Both push their kids to at least some degree to fame and success. Joe Jackson might have been a little more extreme with his methods. But more so, I notice how both seem to push to kind of want to have the whole family famous instead of letting their child go off and do their own thing. That seems to be the case, too. I mean, once again, just him saying that, like, oh, I'm not like these other parents. I'm not like Joe Jackson where they fucking force their kids to do this. I'm like, bro, if you are comparing yourself to other parents, you are a bad parent. If someone is pointing out your behavior and you're comparing, if you have the fucking audacity to then compare your behavior to someone else because you think yours is not that bad, you're a horrible fucking person, okay? No excuses whatsoever. And I'm sure there are some cases where the child doesn't talk to their parents because the child's probably a fucking brat. Who knows? You know, everyone walks their own path in life. So I'm sure there's some cases where the parent did absolutely nothing wrong and the child is in the wrong and the child is a brat. However, I would argue, too, that that's still the parent's fault because for 18 years of that child's life, the parent is responsible for everything, including the child's main influence and main behaviors. Once they're an adult, there's nothing they can do about it. You know, maybe something happens going into adulthood that change their mind about their parents, but I would say 99% of the time, when a parent goes no contact with, or I said that backwards, 99% of the time, when a child goes no contact with their parents, it is always the parent's fault. Plain and simple. It's always the parent's fault. Because there are still plenty of kids who talk to their parents, and for your child to not even want to see your face ever again, you have done something so detrimental that they saw no other option but to cut you off. I'm telling you that from my own personal experience as well. I tried to fix things with my parents multiple times, and they would always compare. They would either bring something up that I did from the past while hypocritically telling me not to bring up their past, or they would try to twist the story around, or they would say, oh, we do it because we care about you. They would basically do everything possible to avoid apologizing. And then the final straw was always, well, at least we're not as bad as some other parents. Other parents beat their kids. We don't do that to you. You need to be more grateful. Eventually, they would apologize, and their apologies meant nothing because the behavior never fucking changed. Eventually, I saw no other option but to cut them off. Because I knew that as long as I kept them in my life, I was never going to be happy. I was never going to achieve my goals. I was never going to be able to grow. Because they were also holding me back. They did not allow me to go out and be my own person. They did not allow me to do my own thing. They were constantly trying to control me. Even going into adulthood, they were still trying to control who I hung out with, what I watched. They were even trying to control what color shirts I wore. I could not do anything in peace. I cut them off because I genuinely saw no other option. And you know what's ironic about the whole thing is not a single day has gone by where I've missed them. I've not missed them once. Not once in my fucking life. Anyway, that's my take on the D'Amelio case. I don't know what's going on. I will say this. There's a lot of people on TikTok who need to shut the fuck up because there are people who are just talking for the sake of gossip and drama, and they have no idea what it's like to lose a parent. Because when you cut off family, you're essentially losing them. It's almost, because I'll tell you right now, my parents are fucking dead to me. And it feels like when you cut off someone who's been in your life every single day for the past 18, 19, 20 years of your existence, it almost leaves like an empty void in your heart, as if they were dead. It definitely will put you through a depressive state. It will take some getting used to. And you'll never truly get over it. That's the plain and simple truth. But that being said, I wish Charlie the best. And I'm very good at reading people, and I can tell that her family are just shady fucking people. They need to be banned off the fucking internet. Anyway, thanks for listening. This is the Adonis Podcast.